Hi everyone, this is Crystal with Emerson Aurora Design, and today I'm going to show you a reverse tie-dye tumbler using HTVRont Micas. HTVRont reached out to me and sent me these beautiful pack of micas, 24 colors or 10 grams each, to use on tumbler. And I'm going to pass off some savings to you guys, so I will tell you a little bit about that at the end. I'm doing two 20-ounce modern curved tumblers. One I spray painted black, the other white. I really want to see how these micas look on two different colored backgrounds. So I'm going to show you both. Kind of excited to do this. I'm going to place a small amount of epoxy on both of my tumblers so that I have a good base for my micas. This is going to be a mica swirl, but I'm going to attempt to do the reverse tie-dye method. I'm going to place like a different rainbow colored micas in a slanted design, and then go back over with the opposite color later. I'll show you in the video. You'll see. It'll make more sense here in a little bit. Anyway, I'm just smoothing on my epoxy. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of heat from my torch to pop any bubbles and allow that epoxy to lay down nice and smoothly. And then we'll get started with the micas. I'm using 6 different colors. I'm doing rainbow colors, so red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. I'm just adding about 5 to 10 mLs of epoxy in both cups since I'm doing both tumblers here. And I'm adding a fair amount of the mica in my epoxy. I'm going to mix that in really well so that way that mica is all nice and smooth, and I really am so far happy with the way this mica is working. It has a really pretty shimmer to it, a pearl look about it, and it mixed really well into my epoxy. The colors are very vibrant and I'm very happy so far with these. This is sped up. Of course, I'm not actually mixing the micas this quickly because the powder would be going everywhere. So this is a sped up version of what I actually did. Go kind of slow, but really work that mica into the epoxy so that you mix it in evenly and smoothly without getting your micas flying everywhere, because mica it flies everywhere. And you can see some of it got on that black cup. But that's perfectly fine. It isn't going to hurt anything. So I'm just taking my popsicle stick here and I'm going to lay out my colors in stripes going diagonal on each cup. I'm going to do both these cups very similar with the mica application so that we can get a good look at how those colored micas look on a black base versus a white base. So far I'm really happy with them. They're both really opaque and they lay down really nicely on these tumblers, and I'm happy with how true to color they are. There's really no pattern that I'm going in other than the diagonal here. This is going to be a tie-dye type tumbler, so it doesn't have to be perfect, which is great for beginners. I really love that pink color. It kind of has a pink purple shift. It's really pretty. Here's with a bright orange. And it really does look beautiful on both the white and the black base. And my yellow. Sometimes yellows can be a little translucent, but this yellow really stood up to the black base there. It really stayed opaque and really pretty and bright. And I have to preface this by saying that whenever I do mica, epoxy, Milky Way swirls, I tend to go a little overboard with how much epoxy I use on my tumbler. So you can see they kind of pool, the colors are pooling a little bit. But I'm going to show you what I do here in just a bit. These tumblers are very messy to make. So I'm going to hit that with my torch again and pop those bubbles, add a little warmth to get that mica swirling. And I'm taking my popsicle sticks with each color. I'm staying green popsicle stick with the green, and I'm just kind of making hatch motions. I'm not adding more mica unless I feel like it needs it. The white tumbler needs a little bit more mica in the colors there, but I'm just adding kind of hatch marks with my popsicle stick to let that mica kind of spread out a little bit and to have a bit of a texture. I do add a little more mica blue, the blue color. I didn't add enough on that white base there. And I'm just kind of blending the colors into the colors that are next to the one I'm doing. Like the green will have the yellow and the blue. I'm just kind of blending those a little bit, but I don't want them to become muddy, so just be real careful. This is kind of a trust the process technique. You may hate it before you love it, so just keep at it and see how it comes out. I'm adding a little bit more of the pink there too because I did not put enough on that white tumbler. Like I said, this is all sped up, so I'm not doing this in real time. This is going faster than I would normally do this. I'm just adding those streaks, little hatch marks to get that mica to move around a little bit and not pool. Like that orange was really pooling there. I added a lot, and this will spread it out a little bit. And like I said, I'm pleasantly surprised at how beautiful and opaque that yellow is, because a lot of times when I use the lighter colored micas, they are more translucent, and this one really holds its color. So I was happy with that. So this is after that mica has set and the epoxy has cured. This is the next day. You can see how pretty some of those colors blended, and you can see the hatch marks that I made with my popsicle stick. It looks really pretty, and it almost has a shell-like appearance up at the top there where they kind of mixed. But as you can see, that the colored mica is kind of pulled back from the rim and the bottom of the tumbler, which that's common with doing swirls with mica or any other type of additive you may use. The epoxy will pull from the rims. So and that's fine. Like I said, I'm doing the reverse tie-dye. So I am going to add a thin layer of epoxy. I'm trying to add a little less than I did the first round because I did use too much epoxy that first round. And that's part of the reason why that epoxy pulled the colors away from the edges. So for my reverse tie-dye here, I'm going to, on the white base tumbler, I'm going to use a white swirl. I'm going to use the white pearl mica from HTVRont that they gave me, and I'm going to add just a little bit of acrylic paint here to make it a little more opaque. So I'm just mixing that pearl white into the epoxy really well, and I'm just going to add literally just a little drop of the acrylic paint. You don't want to add too much acrylic paint. It will make your epoxy really stringy and just a weird texture. I just wanted enough to help that white mica be a little bit more opaque. So now I'm going to go in thin lines here, opposite of the direction that I went with the original mica colors. And this is going to give that reverse tie-dye kind of look. I'm not adding as much as I did with the first go around with the colors because this is just the white. And I'm going to take a gloved finger and just kind of smudge those lines so that it just looks better. I don't like just the straight stringy lines, I guess. I don't know how to explain that, but I'm just kind of smudging it here to thin it out and have it look a little bit better. I'm going to go through and do kind of the hatch mark technique like I did before. I'm going to do this hatch mark technique across the whole tumbler, even through the clear, and it'll help let that white be a little bit more wispy looking. And if you go in one direction, I'm going from top to bottom, it's better. And you can see it's starting to look a little bit better the more you do it. I do babysit this tumbler quite a bit. It's going to start, I'm using a quick set epoxy. It'll start to set up, but I want to keep making the lines, the hatch marks in the white to keep that texture. Once that epoxy becomes thick, then you can stop. You can see how pretty that looks so far. And that pearl mica is so pretty on top of those colors. So here's my black tumbler. I already applied that thin layer of regular epoxy over. This one didn't pull as much from the top and the bottom. I'm going to go in with this black pearl mica from HTVRont and a little bit of black acrylic paint, just like I did with the white. And I'm going to do the same technique I just did with the white tumbler. As I was saying though, this one didn't seem to pull away from the edges as much when it cured. The colors didn't pull away as much. Not sure exactly why it pulled more off the white. But like I said, in the end, it isn't really going to even make a difference. And I apologize for my camera not focusing. I was having technical difficulties. I'm going to do the same technique, just kind of smudge that around. Now with the black here, it obviously does cover a lot more of the color than the white did, because the white's a little bit more translucent. So I was trying to be careful and not let it look like a muddy mess. It was really interesting seeing the differences in the two tumblers with the white base and overlay and the black base and overlay, the differences. And I learned a lot from making these tumblers, let's just say that. So I'm doing my hashtag, I don't even know what I'm saying, but the little hatch marks that I was making before. And I think I take my gloved finger and kind of try to pull off some of that black. It was covering up too much of the pretty mica, but we're going to have another step after this, so you'll see what I do. So I'm just going to hit that, and I'm trying to thin that out. Oh gosh, my dog's got her toy. Bella. Sorry about that, guys. My dog was playing with her toy. Anyway, I forgot what I was saying. I think I was pulling off some of that black mica with my finger just to kind of thin it out a little bit so that you could see the colors better. I wasn't happy that it was covering up the colors. But here's a little close-up once I was happy with it. And I'm going to let this spin and cure, and we'll be back at the next step here in probably a few hours. This was fast set epoxy. So a few hours later, this is set up. I wanted to bring back some of those colors. So I'm going to go back with a really thin line of each color here. You'll see me putting that on the same colors that it was, yellow on yellow, green on green, etc., etc. And going back in the other direction. My dog's back at it, I'm sorry. And I'm going to smooth that out a little bit. And this almost makes like a basket weave effect. It really turned out kind of neat. And so it will color the white hatch marks, the color of the micas that I'm doing essentially. And this go round, I didn't make the mica and epoxy mixture as thick as the first one, so it's a little bit more translucent. I didn't want to cover up all of my work. And I'm just kind of moving that around a little bit. And I go in and I'll add heat to it. I'll smudge it around with my gloved finger until I'm happy with the effect. Like I said, in between each layer of the micas and the epoxy, you're going to let the epoxy cure. So these are layers. So far we're on to 3 layers. This is the 3rd layer of adding those micas. Adding some heat here. And I will go in and kind of jazz it up, rub it down a little bit with my finger again to kind of smooth those colors out a little more. And here I'm doing this with the black. And the black cup is the main reason why I wanted to do this, because I really didn't want to cover up so much of the pretty colored mica. So I'm just adding some more of that mica just like before. And I'll spread it out with my finger, and I'll add some heat, and I'll make some hatch marks just like the last 2 rounds. Now it's starting to look more like a reverse tie-dye. And as that mica swirls overnight, as it cures, it'll look a little bit different. You'll see here in a little bit. I'll show you once it's cured. But I'm liking the way it's turning out now. You can see the different textures, the different depth of that, the swirls. And there we go. It's looking better every time. You just have to kind of trust the process with this. And it's not as dark as it was before, so I'm a lot happier with this. Don't forget to hit it with your torch to pop your bubbles. And we'll let this cure overnight completely. So now I'm going to add my decal. I found this really cute decal on Etsy. I'll leave the seller's name in the description box below. It is an astronaut blowing bubbles that look like planets, which I think it's so adorable. They had a couple different files that were similar to this, and they're so cute. I have another one where the astronaut is holding balloons that look like planets, and it's just so cute. I love it. So the black, this is going to go on the black tumbler. It gave me galaxy vibes, so that's why I chose this. And I'm going to show you this process because this is a very, very intricate cut SVG file. And I cut it on this kind of holographic silver vinyl, and I was reverse weeding it. I weeded what I could while it was on the transfer paper, but then or on the backing, and then I put it on my transfer paper because I'm going to continue weeding this directly on my tumbler. It is so much easier. This has a lot of little tiny fine lines that would pop up every time I weed it, and it is kind of a nightmare. So I am going to put it directly on my tumbler. First, I'm going to trim it. I'm going to trim it up as close as I can to the image because you don't want to have all that extra vinyl hanging over. And this is a modern curved tumbler, so it's kind of a pain to put put a large image on. But as I lay down my image, like I said, a lot of this vinyl is going to go away. So you can kind of stretch that vinyl to go over the curve. If you need to, you can cut lines in your transfer tape to allow it to lay down nicely. You can see me kind of pushing that down and stretching the transfer tape to get that image to lay down nicely. And I was lucky that it laid down nicely. There are creases, but don't worry, that's the part of the vinyl that's going to be peeled up. If you have a really intricate SVG that you need to weed, this is so easy. Look at this. I'm literally just going to peel it back and most of it comes up perfectly. This vinyl is kind of cheap holographic vinyl I purchased in a pack on Amazon. It kind of rips. You can see it's ripping a little bit, which is fine. I'm just peeling it back, and those little stars stayed right in place, which is amazing. If you know, you know. When you, I get into fights with my vinyl when I'm weeding it sometimes, and I have a few choice words for them most of the time. So this is a good technique to just stick it on your tumbler. Just give up, stick it on your tumbler, and weed it from there. You're not going to hurt the tumbler at all, the epoxy. If you scratch it a little when you put your next layer of epoxy down, it is going to be perfectly fine and cover up your little scratches. So this tool I'm using is one of my favorite weeding tools. It's actually a dental pick. I'll leave I'll leave a link to that package that I purchased from Amazon in the description box below. This is my go-to weeding tool. So you can see how nicely that is. It just doesn't have a crease to it, and these little tiny fine details in these planets are going to come up perfectly. And there it is. So easy to do that this way. So I am going to seal my tumbler before I put a next layer of epoxy on there. I seal it with my Crystalac. Now with the white tumbler, I wanted to just do a white flower outline. I didn't show you weeding this, it's pretty straightforward, but they're sunflowers. I just kind of put them in a diagonal pattern, and I did seal this before I am doing my epoxy layer. I always seal my vinyl on my tumbler before I add my next step. I'm going to use crushed crystals. This is a microfine kind of, they call it glitter mica, but really it's just really, really tiny pieces of glitter, and a little goes a long way with this. It's so beautiful though. I love to add this to my epoxy when I'm need a little bit of extra sparkle in my tumbler. So I'm just mixing this into my epoxy, and I'm putting a coat on over the vinyl here. I have to add a little bit of bling. This tumbler didn't have any glitter on it so far. You can see how pretty that sparkle is from the crushed crystal glitter mica. Just adds such a pretty shine and sparkle. But you can use any glitter additive to your epoxy that you want. Even just an ultra fine glitter would be nice too. I'm going to add a couple different opalescent white glitters just for some more extra glitter here. This one's kind of a chunky mix, opal white. And I'm kind of mixing it in thick because I don't want it to swirl all over the whole tumbler. I'm just putting it in select areas in a diagonal with my gloved finger here, just to give it a little interest and depth. I'm not putting this over the whole tumbler. This will swirl a little bit as the tumbler turns, but it is thick, so it stays mostly in place. And I'm going to add this really large cut. It almost looks like a confetti but it's really large cut glitter. It's an opalescent, and I love these glitters. They add so much depth. They really catch the light when the tumbler turns, and I love using these really ultra large cut glitters just as accents. Now once you place this kind of glitter accents all over, let your epoxy cure totally, and then you'll probably have to add 2 more layers of epoxy over this glitter, especially with that extra large chunk glitter that I did, because the epoxy likes to fisheye around it. So you will have to do 2 layers of epoxy final coats over this with a sanding in between. Now with the black tumbler here, I'm going to add the same thing, the crushed crystals, to my epoxy. And this just looks so pretty against the black. I really love this one against the black micas here. Looks like stars. Adds to that galaxy feel. I'm going to add a couple different opalescent translucent glitters, just like I did with the white tumbler. This pretty purple, and I believe I use, well, I'll show it here in a second, a pink, and this blue. I'm going to actually just put those into a little bit of epoxy together, so a little scoop of each to mix those in and make a pretty little mix. And this is with epoxy, so I'm doing it just like I did with the opal glitters, making it just a thick little mixture here. I'm going to add that in different areas here in the tumbler here. Doing this with the glitters just adds dimension without overwhelming your pattern here and your image. I wanted it to look almost like nebula. I'm going to do some of that opal also because I couldn't help myself. Guys, I can't help it. I love glitter. But all of these glitters are like a translucent glitter, so you can still see the colors behind them. I'm going to let this one cure for 24 hours. Oh, I forgot to tell you. I'm going to use these little 4-point star opal glitters that I have here to add just a little bit of stars to my galaxy. This, I'm just tapping my gloved finger, which has epoxy on it, into the glitter and just kind of touching it down on the epoxy to have it stick there. And they're little 4-pointed stars, just like the little decals there. So, as I was saying, I'm going to let this spin and cure for 24 hours. I'll go back and add 2 more layers of epoxy, let them cure fully in between with 1 sanding layer in between that. And here are my final products. I love the way these turned out. I'm really happy with the HTVRont Micas. I think that they are beautiful, they are easy to work with, and the colors are so vibrant. I really recommend them. If you guys are interested in a 20% off code for this package of HTVRont Micas, let me know in the comments below and I will give you that coupon code. HTVRont was so generous to allow me to have 20 different coupon codes for 20% off. So if you're interested in these beautiful micas, there's 24 colors in the set, and you have a ton of mica in each jar. There's 10 grams, and that's going to last you forever. So if you're interested and you're happy with this, give this a try. Get your code. If you're not subscribed to my channel, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment in the description box below. I would love to hear from you if you have any questions. Thank you so much for watching my video. You guys have a wonderful day. Happy crafting, everyone.